Hello, this is a two-part video explanation on how to use Mapping Operator in Particle Flow of 3ds Max. We will start with a fresh new scene. I will open my Particle Flow by pressing the 6 key on keyboard. For a head start, I am going to drag in Standard Flow as it comes with basic working particle setup. We can already see one particle with the PFlow icon in our viewport. When we scrub through the timeline, we can see that the particle stops emitting after frame 30. For the explanation purpose, I would like it to emit throughout the timeline, so I am going to change the emit stop to 100. To visualize the mapping on our particle, we need to give it some shape. Standard Flow already comes with a shape operator. Now all we need to do is change the display to geometry. There we go. Now we can visualize our particles as cubes. In the first part of the video, we will only focus on Mapping Operator, and in the second part we will talk about the Mapping Object Operator. Let's drag a Mapping Operator into our Event 1. I will explain all the options here from top to bottom, but to see the results in Viewport we will need to enable the Show in Viewport checkbox. We don't see any changes. There is still something missing. We would also need a Material Operator to visualizing the mapping. It would work with any of the three material operator, so I will choose static. Let's now create a material. I will attach a UVW channel to base color of a physical material to show how the mapping operators maps the UVW channel on our particles. We are done setting up our scene. Now, before going any further, let's first understand how the mapping operator works. You must have came across UV map before. Just like XYZ space, we have UV space for mapping texture on our models. The UV map extends 1 unit in each direction. U-axis is represented by red color and V-axis is represented by green color. Notice how the color is brightest at 1 in each of them. The mapping operator lets us choose a pixel position UV, and that color is then applied to the particle object. Right now our U and V are set to 0, but we still see yellow-colored cube in our viewport. That is because the viewport calculates different than the render to keep things faster in viewport. At 0, 0 coordinates our UV should give black color. Let's check in render view. We can now change our U and V value to see it update the colors correctly. In viewport, the red and green colors seems to be swapped. Moreover, when we go past 1, the transition seems to be repeating. That is not the case in the render view. In render we see the red and green reaches its maximum brightness at 1 and does not shows any changes after that. That is because our UV is not tiling. We will understand this better when we will use a bitmap instead of UVW channel to color our particle. Let's now replace UVW with a bitmap image. This here indicates that our bitmap image is mapped onto the UV coordinates. This will be the image we will be using. Just like before, we can move in the U direction to map different colors from our image. Since our U is at 0 right now, the cube shows magenta color, which indicates that nothing is being mapped onto our particle. As soon as we start increasing our U value, we start to see our particle changing colors according to our image file. When our value gets greater than 1, our color starts to repeat again. That is because our bitmap is set to tiling. If we uncheck the tiling, our particles don't get any color. We will leave the tiling on for now. Let's look at Sync by menu now. Sync by only has effect when the mapping coordinates are animated. Let's start by animating our mapping. I will turn on Auto Key. At frame 0, I will set the value to 0.1. Then at frame 50, I will set the value 0.9. See how all our particles change colors altogether according to our keys. This is because when Sync by is set to absolute time, all the particles follow one timeline. Second option is Sync by particle age. As the name implies, each particle will have their own timeline, which will start the time they are emitted, due to which the particles that were emitted first will have different color to the particles emitted later. Next option is event duration. At first it might look similar to particle age, but there is one difference. In event duration, the particles that are passed to a new event will restart with a new timeline. We are now passing our particles to a new event and make them spawn some extra particles. I will also copy the material and mapping operator from the event one. To demonstrate the difference more clearly, I will have to uncheck the Restart Particle Age on Spawn. Notice how in particle duration the mapping animation restarts without needing us to reset the particle age. This can be beneficial in certain situations. Let's get to channels now. The channels let us choose where we would like to store the mapping data. There are two options here: Map Channel and Vertex Color Channel. In this video, we are only going to talk about map channels, as Vertex Color Channel is a complete different topic in itself. Map Channel provide us with an option to have multiple mapping for a single object stored in different channels. I will use two mapping channels to demonstrate how it can be utilized. This is one of those situations where viewport gives inaccurate output. Even though our bitmap is set to map channel 2, it still shows output for channel 1. It's always a good idea to check in render every now and then when working with mapping and materials. I hope you learned something from the video. I will be uploading the part 2 soon. The intro was made using the same technique. In case you have any doubts or questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I will go through each of them in my free time. Thank you.